Yo, what is up guys? So we're here to showcase off the new Noble Knight Link monster in action with a lockdown. Now, it's actually pretty consistent to pull off the lockdown because you're going to be able to search out some of the cards via the golden bamboo archetype. Now, you do have some draw power, but the only real important card in this to open up, and this guy, he can't even place. He's just going to just GG out here because he legitimately cannot Yu-Gi-Oh! The other guy just quit. So let me explain what the heck's going on real quick. So we're using the new Noble Knight Link monster, and this just lets you add a warrior monster, but it also lets you send an equip spell to the graveyard. And it can actually be multiple up to the level of the card that you're adding. You only really need to go for one, but there is a lot of potential here with this card. I'm actually going to go through the replays and I'll kind of explain it because we have a few of them to check out here just so there's some background gameplay. But what we're doing is we're essentially just being able to search out some of the golden bamboo cards. The important cards in this archetype are actually going to be the burning bamboo sword, which will make it so, if you activate bamboo sword card while this card is already face up in your spell and trap zone, you can skip your opponent's next main phase 1. So what you're able to do with that is they don't have a main phase 1. Now with Terminal World, what you're able to do is go ahead and make it so both players skip their main phase 2. You can only activate this during main phase 1, but you make it so both of the players skip their main phase 2. So basically, you're locking them out of one turn minimum. You can obviously use this again later on. But pretty much from here, your opponent is not going to be able to play because they legitimately are locked out. Unless they have some like card that's like activates specifically during the standby phase. I mean, you guys saw this guy. He didn't even get to Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's kind of how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is sometimes in some formats. The goal is to make it so your opponent cannot play at all. I mean, we'll see it against. We got the new Madolches here. I know a lot of people are really hyped up about that Link monster, but Link monster got revealed and it's just not that great. I feel like this Noble Knight one is insane. So, anyways. The summoning condition for this is super easy. Like, to pull this combo off, it's actually pretty consistent. In fact, I would say probably play some Pot of Desire. Just go for it. Just go. It doesn't matter that you're going minus because the whole goal of this deck is a cheese deck at the end of the day. It's making it so you try to go first. Now, we do have some cards, which we will get into when I give you guys the deck profile, so you guys can kind of see that you can still kind of play. Like, the best example would be like Regeki or something like that, where if your opponent goes ahead and makes a board and you have to actually like respond to it, but the deck can still actually go for some Link monsters, and you know, obviously any deck that can make it so your opponent cannot play for one turn, majority of decks are just going to be able to win. Like, look at this guy, he can't do anything at this point. Now there are cards of course that could stop it. We got the young cowboy over there going for game, but yeah, because only your opponent loses the main phase 1. Both players do lose main phase 2, but basically you're getting a huge advantage with this because your opponent isn't going to be able to summon for the most part, unless of course there is some like quick play that you're activating. But I don't know, like Book of Moon just isn't a thing, and even Book of Mooning the Link monster, that's not possible because Link monsters cannot be in defense position. In fact, well, I guess if you ask the YCS proc, like this guy was just like, "Oh, dude, GG, man." But if you asked him at YCS proc, one of the commentators was like, "Dude, why doesn't he just go to defense position?" And everyone called him out on. They're like, "Why is this guy commentating?" It was probably just a simple mistake. But yeah, you can't put the monsters in this, well, I guess the Link monsters, because they don't have a defense, which is actually kind of interesting of a mechanic. But basically, the Noble Knight card over here, let me go over its full effect, and I'll give you guys the deck profile, and I'll kind of explain it a little bit more if it's not fully, like, if we don't get enough time during these replays. Just want to showcase a few different ones. But anyways, as soon as it's Link Summon, you can add one warrior monster from your deck to your hand, but you can't normal summon or set or special summon, or activate the effect of that monster. Basically, it just lets you search out something. And then, you can send any number of equipped spell cards with different names from your deck to the graveyard to special summon one warrior monster from your deck whose levels equals the number of cards sent to activate this card's effect. To activate this effect, you can only use each effect event once per turn. So, basically, you're able to search out a card. You're able to special summon something, so when it comes back to your main phase 1 again, because remember, your opponent is not going to be able to play. Like I said, the only important card that you really need to like get is Terminal World. You will have a few cards that will allow you to go for some draw power over here. which is pretty easy because the cursed bamboo sword will actually let you have that ability to, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a bamboo sword from your deck to your hand. So you can just add whatever you want, whether that is draw power or whether that is something else that you want to go for. It's usually either this or like the draw power card. But anyway, the golden bamboo sword. And you'll be good to go. You can see this guy over here. He is playing some of them young Ojamas. Ojamas actually aren't that bad. Like, no joke, it's actually pretty decent. But he's going to go ahead and set another one. So basically, you're able to special summon some monsters for free. Plus, you get to search out a card. And then on top of that, you're sending the bamboo sword. And then you can see he's making a token. I just want to showcase this one off, because it's kind of playing the deck more like a link-oriented deck, where it's not just, of course, going for that lockdown. So you can still see the deck does function, because you can just special summon a bunch of monsters. That's kind of what the deck does. It's just a bunch of warriors that can special summon themselves, and through that you're able to obviously go for some link plays, and in addition to that you can make, you know, potentially things that would be other options of, I guess, your win condition. I mean, the win condition at the end of the day is your opponent not being able to Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, let me go ahead and, I think we saw this one. This was the one with Black Wings. Okay, yeah, we did see this one. Okay, just want to make sure we showcased off all of them. The most important one was the last one. Again, is just to show you guys that it could function as a deck without just going for the win condition. But here is their deck profile. This is the one originally as it was sent in. So shout outs to Teriyaki for building this, because it is a lockdown. And I know people do like lockdown. Well, you probably won't like lockdowns if you're on the receiving end of being locked down. But basically, the goal is a bunch of monsters that will special summon themselves. So let's go over the deck profile really quick. But yeah, thanks again, Teriyaki, for sending this in. So anyways, we got 3 copies of Photon Thrasher. So this one, it must be first special summon from your hand if you control no monsters, and it can't attack if you control another monster, but don't worry about that, you're going to go for this card anyways. So yeah, we got triple Photon Thrashers, triple Goblinberg. So this one, once this card is normal summon, you can special summon level 4 or lower monster from your hand. And then we have 3 copies of Doggy Diver. So if your opponent controls a face-up monster and all face-up monsters you control a minimum 1 or level 4, you can special summon it from your hand. So again, it's just kind of like just because it's a warrior. Plus, this one actually has extra utility because it's a dark, which actually allows you to do more because it's an Allure of Darkness target. I would have actually maxed out on Allure of Darkness, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyways, we got 2 copies of Summoner Monk. So get rid of a spell card, and some of the spell cards can actually get extra effects. And you got Summoner Monk, and this is going to kind of help with some of the cards like Foolish Burial Goods, where you can only activate 1 of them per turn. So that will be good if you have already used one. Like, it's pretty much dead because it's kind of a turn 1 deck, I would say. If you go in like second and your opponent opens up really strong and you don't have Regeki, this is probably not going to be a good duel for you. But it's either going to be a good duel for you or a good duel for your opponent, because this deck, it's a cheese deck at the end of the day. But yeah, next up we have 3 copies of Blue Mountain Butter Spray. So you can special summon this card from your hand, and this card can't be used as synchro material. Okay. Oh, it's when you summon a warrior type monster. My bad. I gotta read the beginning of the effect, but it cannot be normal summon. So once you summon pretty much anything in the deck except for Summoner Monk, but if you're summoning Summoner Monk, you're probably gonna activate its effect to get out something else. But yeah, that's what you're gonna be using him for, or her. I think it's a grill. Are we assuming it's gender? Anyways, yeah, Blue Mountain Butter Spice used for that. We have 3 copies of Card Breaker. And this card cannot be normal summoned or set, can only be special summoned in face-up attack position by sending 1 card from your spell and trap card zone to the graveyard. So some of these cards you really don't like need them. So yeah, it's just a card that you can special summon if you you know, happen to have this card and you need to go for it, or if you want to get rid of, you know, this potentially. It can be used for that as well. Next up, we have 3 copies of Big 1 Warrior. So during your main phase, you can summon 1 level 1 monster, except for this card, from hand to the graveyard to special summon this. But a lot of times what's happening, guys, is we're actually utilizing, as you guys saw from the replay, the Noble Knight Link monster. So I'm just going to go ahead and search this out. Just lets you specifically send 1, because it's a level 1. You might be able to find other targets, but that's what they opted to go for. Next up, we have Regeki. I guess if you really want to make this deck more consistent, you can throw Regeki, Dark Hole, and just like triple Desires. I mean, it's a cheese deck, and any cheese deck, I always suggest you guys to run cards like Pod Desires. If it needs to be like a deck that goes for a turn 1 play, like win or lose, get rich or die trying, that kind of a thing. Yeah. Anyways, next up we have Allure of Darkness. We have 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods, which will then send you your Cursed Bamboo Sword, which lets you search out whatever bamboo sword that you currently need. So So next up we have 3 copies of, this is basically Pot of Greed in the deck. And then we have 1 Twin Twisters, triple copies of Terminal World, which is kind of like the win condition of this deck, because you're going to skip your opponent's main phase 1, and if they have no monsters, well, there's no point of really a battle phase, and then on top of that, they have no main phase 2, so they can never summon, never use most of the spells, most of the traps. There are some conditions where like you can activate it during your standby phase, or if it's quick play, or you guys get the drift, but for the most part, your opponent will not be able to Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a lockdown sort of a deck. And we have 3 copies of Burning Bamboo Sword. This makes so your opponent will skip their next main phase 1. We have 2 copies of Broken Bamboo Sword, so it'll make it so the monster gains 0 attack. It's also just technically another like card. Could use it with this, but pretty much no. It's just used as another bamboo sword. And we have 3 copies of Cursed Bamboo Sword, which will then search you out any of the other bamboo swords. So basically, if you don't have this card, you're going to be going for this card. And even if you happen to not have Terminal World, because your opponent will not be able to summon anything until main phase 2, let's say you don't get Terminal, because like you can get this card out real consistent in the deck. Sometimes if you use the draw power and you just don't happen to draw into Terminal World, or you don't have it for whatever reason, it's still okay to make it so your opponent loses their main phase 1, because again, if they don't get their main phase 1, them going to battle phase, well, that doesn't really matter, because more than likely your monster will survive. Then you can go into your link plays. Obviously, you guys again saw during the last replay, the deck can still kind of function. You just go into Firewall Dragon, maybe like throw in like another like rank 4 or something like this to get over their stuff, and then they still lose out. If you happen to still have your stuff, your opponent still loses out on their next main phase 1. So it becomes a really problematic thing for your opponent to deal with, even if they can summon in main phase 2. Sometimes your monsters will still survive, but obviously it's ideal to have this. But yeah, I think we're done with the main deck. For the extra deck, we got the Utopia lineup, we got the Dank Rebellion. Let's say they make a monster in main phase 2 that's really strong. That's a really great card. And then we have number 70, the Malevolent Sin. And we have 101 Silent Honor Arc, Gaga Cowboy, 2 copies of Firewall Dragon, 3 copies of Proxy Dragon, and 3 copies of the new Noble Knight Link monster. I mean, if you want the full name, I guess you guys can see it. I think it's reminiscent of the Noble Knights, but it might be Isolde. I think if you search it, you'll find it. You just type in like Noble Knights. There's not that many Noble Knights, right? But anyways, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing something a little bit different. I know people were really excited that a lot of the new Link monsters are coming out into the game, and this is a showcase of a lockdown, and because you can use any warriors, it doesn't have to be like Noble Knights. It's pretty consistent to actually again pull it off, because there's like half the deck is just summon extra cards and the rest is just pretty much like draw power-ish. Like this is draw power, this is basically draw power, so just out whatever you want. But like I said, if you guys want to make this a little bit more consistent, in my personal opinion, I would add Pot of Desires. I would also add a 3rd Allure of Darkness. Obviously making the deck 40, I would take out some of the stuff like you could. I'm just not a fan of some of the cards, but like I said, you guys can swap it up to your liking. But shout out to Teriyaki for hooking me up with the replays to show for this deck. But anyways, it's pretty cool. We're seeing Noble Knights. We're seeing a lockdown. Well, I mean, I don't like getting locked down, but if you're on the playing side, it's fun. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're always doing crazy Yu-Gi-Oh videos.